My whole goal with it in that regard is to make it so that the next me doesn't need, or well, the next person that looks like me that sees parkour, like doesn't need to like scour the internet for who looks like me that does this.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining me again on the Takeoff. Really excited to share this conversation with Darryl Stingley with you guys. I've known Darryl for coming up on 15 years probably, and it's always great to talk to him. He, I think, does not get enough credit for how insightful he is, both as an athlete, and we do get really, really nerdy with some parkour technique stuff regarding his double tap or tack 180 technique that he's been really finessing over the last year for the rest of you parkour nerds out there. I think you'll really like that section. But also as an artist and how he very purposefully tries to represent his roots, his culture, his area in the media that he puts out there. And it's a great conversation. I think you're going to get a really good sense of who Darryl is, ranging from the nerdy comic book fan all the way to, how he really sees himself as a professional athlete and artist and kind of does it all. You might also notice that we had a couple of audio issues. For some reason, the mic on my headphones, I guess, wasn't working. Figuring out what's going on there. But if the audio sounds a little crunchier than usual, my apologies. Don't think it will mess with your enjoyment of the episode or of any of Darryl's perspectives. So without any more delay, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm very excited for this week's Takeoff guest. We got the one and only friendly neighborhood Jumpman, Bay Area SPL competitive parkour legend, content maven, Darryl Stingley. Welcome to the Takeoff, bud.
It's great to be here. I'm happy to be a maven. Like I'm all about that. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask you a very important question to get things rolling, and this is like the F Marry Kill question for you, but we're gonna actually just do you only get to take one. The other ones disappear forever, and I'm really curious who your answer is. So you get to keep one between Spidey, Cap, Batman, Goku, Black Panther.
Uh,
Who stays?
okay, hold on now. Spidey, Cap, uh, Batman,
Batman,
Black Panther,
Goku.
and Goku. Fuck. Can I like be the one that's removed and the rest of them can stay? Like, because those are my biggest.
You're gonna put the Infinity Gauntlet on your hand and you let yourself die
Damn,
instead. No, you only get to keep one, man. I wanted to start you with a conundrum.
damn. It's such a hard like three-way deadlock between like Black Panther, Batman, and Spider-Man. Like I'm just like I don't know. I guess um dude, yeah, damn. I guess I guess Batman. I guess Batman. Batman's like the one that I feel like Batman was like my first love. You know what I mean? Like I think Spider-Man was like the first one that I like ever saw. So I was already hype on Spider-Man like as a little kid. But like Batman was the one where I felt like, oh, like like I resonate with this guy, even though both my parents are totally alive and I'm not rich. Like I'm actually the most polar opposite to him in terms of like life circumstances. Two alive parents who are present and $0 at all because we were poor. So yeah, dude, I guess it's Batman because like that's the guy that I relate to.
Well, that was one of the reasons for anyone who's listening and doesn't know you and has not somehow picked this up from your social media presence. Comics are obviously very a core part of who you are. And I think they've been a core part of our friendship because this maybe fewer people know this about me, but I am also a big DC Comics nerd. So I was like, okay, how can I ask Darryl about his comics? But I think that's interesting because Batman's also like theoretically the only one of those that's possible in the world that we exist in. So you're like, now, not only could I just become Batman in this world, but I'm actually also going to keep Batman. And I think that's awesome. But I feel like that's it's interesting that you say Batman was the first one that really resonated with you. And what I wanted to ask you in general was how did comics play into, how you saw yourself when you were younger, and then how did it inform your early parkour training days? Because I personally remember being the 14-year-old kid who watched Naruto, and when I started parkour, I was like, okay, how many steps up this like slanted tree can I run with my arms behind my back before I fall off? I thank God I never wore a headband in public, but I was doing some like Naruto Shippuden wall runs back in the day.
Nah, absolutely. I mean, actually, funny you say that about the tree. That's how I broke my wrist. This is my first parkour injury ever. At I think 14 years old, I was like running up a slanted tree at like this park where my dad was like playing softball with his homies, and like I was doing the whole thing where I had like my hoodie on, but I didn't have my arms in the sleeves. You know what I mean? Like
Stop.
Yeah, no, I swear, I swear.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, one of my sleeves, like I don't know what happened. Like I'm really trying to run up this thing, and then like my sleeve like catches around a branch, and I got like whipped out of the tree, fell and broke my wrist. Like, and I didn't know I broke my wrist. I just fell, and it was the first time I experienced pain like that. And this like dad and his daughter were walking by, and the dad literally goes like, "Should we help that little boy?" And the daughter goes, "No." And then they just kept walking away. Like this really happened. This is like I've told this story before, like on podcasts too. It's like this happened to me. I'm like, damn, how y'all not gonna help me? But yeah, like how did comics like inform me, or how did it like associate with my identity? Like as a kid, I was always like, I'm not gonna say like weird, but I was different, like especially being like a black kid in a black family, like in a black neighborhood, like you know what I mean? Well, multicultural neighborhood, but like lot of black people. um, I wasn't super interested in like all of the traditional things. Like I had an older brother, 7 years older than me, and like he was the one who was like into all of like the typical sports and stuff. He was also a comic book nerd. That's how I got into it, was because of him. Like he was into X-Men comics and stuff, and like like that's my intro. I was watching what he was watching. We had bunk beds. You know what I mean? Like so he was watching Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series and all that stuff. So I was watching it. So I was like already like for him it was just cool. For me it was like that's what I want to be. You know what I mean? Like, you know how kids are, and they're like they're seeing things happening in the world around them. Like, I want to be this. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor, a firefighter, whatever. I'm like, I want to be like one of the X-Men. I want to be like a hero. And it was like one part kind of virtue. Like I loved the idea of like doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Because it was the right thing to do, and like using like your powers for good and stuff. So I always thought that was cool. Um, like I I kind of like imprinted on that idea. So like as a kid, I was also like a fan of Muhammad Ali. I was also a fan of Kobe Bryant. These are people who like try to do the right thing. You know what I mean? So like I was like seeing the real world stuff, like Bruce Lee and them doing that kind of stuff, and I'm seeing like the comic book stuff, and I was like, okay, the real world stuff is like that's a person being that, but the comic book stuff is like if it was possible to be that, that's what I would be. You know what I mean? If I had to pick between
Mm.
the two worlds, like I'd pick the comic book character because like that's like they just do the coolest stuff. Like they have these super sick abilities, and I like always wanted to do it. You know what I mean? I always wanted to do it. So I was always outside trying to do like what I saw on like BTAS, like Batman the Animated Series for y'all that don't know. Like I was always trying to do like the like Spider-Man type stuff. And then dude, when the movie Blade came out, when that first movie dropped, like I was outside the movie theater like trying to do he did like this capoeira move called like I think it's called a parafuso, which is like it's almost like a round kick that you bring your feet together and it turns into like almost like a double leg. And like
Mhm.
Wesley Snipes actually did that. So Wesley Snipes is an actual like world class martial artist. Like for anybody that don't know that about him, But like he actually did that. It was like somebody was swinging a sword and he like double legged over the sword, and I was like, what in God's name? So I like walked right out the theater, was trying to do it. So like that kind of stuff like always had an effect on me, like a real visceral effect on me, and I just wanted to be that. And then yeah, like I mean that led me to parkour. I was looking for it, and then I saw it, and I was like, that's the thing, you know?
Yeah, did it feel like those two worlds meeting of the like this is what I want to be real and this is what is real?
Yeah.
The Kobe Bryant meets the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I had a similar experience. I definitely remember seeing, En avance toujours, the David Bell video for the first time, and it was like breaking the fourth wall where it felt like Spider-Man stepping out of the screen. You're like, holy crap, that's a thing that people actually like. Where are the wires, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that one thing I really like about your content now is A, it's so true to who you are. I love that you don't hide how nerdy you are. I also love that you're so rooted in the Bay Area. You know, like your music from the Bay Area, you really in your content and your media, you really highlight the Bay Area. What do you feel like on the less nerdy side as you developed in the space that you were at? What do you feel like your environment being in the Bay Area contributed to, how you started to move and how you started to kind of view your journey in parkour and who you became as you got to be an adult?
Yeah. Um, I mean, like, you know, the Bay is a place that doesn't really get the credit that it deserves for like how much of like the world culture, at least in like pop culture stuff, that like it influences, you know what I mean? Like most of like the hip hop slang came out of here, like people say hella, people say lit, you know what I mean? People say slaps. And I'll go ahead and do everybody a favor really quickly so that they know, like, food does not slap. Food don't slap. It smacks. You eat food and you be like, that's smacking, right? So slaps are like that's for music, you know what I mean, or something like hype like that. So yeah, like the Bay Area has.
That's for new Darryl Stingley clips. New Darryl Stingley clips slap for sure.
There you go. There you go. I got you on that one. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Um, yeah, I mean, the Bay Area has its own style and like its own kind of like swagger, and you'll hear this from a lot of like young people that were growing up in the Bay, but like coming up in the Bay when you have friends outside of here, you're almost like embarrassed of it because like to them it's weird, but to you it's like this is who we are. Like this is normal. And like uh as you like leave, like I left the Bay at 19. I moved to LA. I started working with Tempest and all that stuff. And I was getting made fun of for being from the Bay all the time. And like now everybody says a lot of the lingo that we say out here, but I would tell people out there, like, I'm from the Bay, and they'd be like, oh, that's hella tight. You remember the Missoula days, like between Missoula and
Yeah.
Colorado. Yeah, like that's hecka hella. Like they would just make fun of it. And I wasn't tolerating that at all. I was like, nah, like you guys can't even listen to hip hop, like, and then talk like that. Like, that this is the culture. But like, it's like an odd thing where it's almost like you're embarrassed of it. But then when you get away from it and you start to like experience some of like the whackness of like other places, you're like, dang, man, I want to go back home. And I ended up coming back home, to the Bay because I just felt like it was the place, like, I felt like I belonged here. You know what I mean? Like I felt like, um, being from around here and kind of, I would say being like offbeat, like it works here. And like the other cool thing is you've been here before. Like, we're chill out here, man. We're cool out here. We're accepting of people out here. You know what I mean? Like we're inviting of people out here. Like we got hella cultures out here. You know what I mean? And like we're all one thing, one family. Like, you'll see like me and a lot of people that look like me on the streets who are out there like doing, all of our thing. We're all rhythmic and bumping and just kind of high energy and like but like low key and all that stuff at the same time and chill. And then you'll see like, we got like a whole bunch of like Filipino people, Chinese people, Korean people, Japanese people, like, we got hella white people and we got like, like hella Latino people, like Mexicans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans and all that stuff. And we're all like one thing, you know what I mean? Like we're one
Hmm.
like group together and like we'll all sound the same. Like, I got two barbers, and one of them's black, his name's CJ, and the other dude is
Wait. Hold up. You got two
no,
barbers?
no, listen,
Bro.
no, listen, like, listen,
Bro.
it's not like that, though. CJ's my number one. CJ's my number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a side barber.
No, 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 they're friends. They own the same business together. It's just
Okay.
if I go to see CJ, if CJ's not there, I go and work with Nev, and Nev is
I
Chinese.
didn't want to blow up your spot. Yeah,
No,
I
it's
didn't want to
cool.
blow up your spot.
That's why I was clarifying so that CJ doesn't hear this and think that I'm cheating. But I got two barbers, and so I got CJ, right? He's a black dude. And then I got Nev's Chinese dude, and they both sound the same. Like you hear them both talk, and you're like, who's talking right now? You know what I mean? So it's like there's like an internal kind of like identity that I feel like everybody in the Bay kind of shares, and yeah, just a way that we approach whatever like craft or like endeavor that we go into. Like we're usually like all in on it, and I mean, I think that the thing that the Bay did for me was like it it made me like want to be myself. You know what I mean? Like um man, you cannot escape like the bump and the rhythm and like the attitude that comes out of here. And I would say like actually my entry into parkour is what started to like suppress that side of me because I was the only person around like that, so like okay, like I gotta kind of try to assimilate, like, okay, I'm not from where I'm from. Like I'm from like the suburbs. I'm from a normal place that like you can relate to so that you're not gonna ask me questions, you're not gonna other me, you're not gonna do those kind of things. And like that became a lot of my identity in like my earlier years in parkour. And then like I probably around 23 years old, I was like, I'm done. Like I'm done doing
Hmm.
this. Like I'm done kind of like suppressing this side of myself. I'm just gonna like wholly be me. And I think you could still see it in my earlier content, but like you could probably also see that I was a little bit more like trying to fit in. And yeah, like coming back home to the Bay, which 23 is when I came back. Um, it like re-inspired me to just like, dude, just be yourself, just be who you are. Like, stop trying to be like Tempest, stop trying to be like the UK guys, stop trying to be like the Colorado guys, like, and just be you and just do you. You know what I mean? Like a long, long,
Yeah.
long journey of getting back to myself, and now I feel like I'm as wholly myself as I could have ever been. And like, yeah, I would say I owe that to like the Bay Area influences that I had, you know, especially because those guys are getting hot right now. So, Bay Area is back in the hotness right now. So it's kind of
There we
kind of cool.
go. What is what is you in terms of movement? Like, how do you see your movement style?
Damn, I don't know. What I liked about parkour when I saw it, um, like to kind of give some context of like my athletic background. Like, so as a kid, I played baseball. Obviously, I played football, basketball. Like, my brother ran track, so I would do track drills with him and like run on the track when he was running on the track. Um, Played soccer, did all the norms, but like martial arts was like my thing as a kid. That was because it was like the closest thing to like the comic books and like manga and like being like Goku and stuff like that. So it was like the first thing that I like tried to do. And that led me to people like Jackie Chan and like Donnie Yen and obviously Bruce Lee and Jet Li and all of those guys. But Jackie Chan like really stood out to me because like Jackie Chan had to get somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like Jackie
Hmm.
Chan's like, I gotta get up there.
Reach escape every time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was always reach escape.
always.
Yeah.
I love it. So like that kind of resonated with me, movement wise, and like obviously I found parkour. I found parkour in '05, like watching like a double special of like Jump London and Jump Britain. Um, yeah,
Did you watch them back to back, just straight through,
yeah.
or just consume?
Well,
Heck yeah.
I was watching Jump London because it was like there was like a featurette on the Discovery Channel. Like so, you know.
And that was before you knew Seb was the biggest nerd of all parkour nerds when it comes to Goku and Bruce Lee. I mean, that man is on a special level of nerd tier for his love of Dragon Ball.
Have you've seen obviously you've seen all of his like illustrations and stuff.
His art,
Yeah,
yeah,
the guy is
yeah,
like, dude,
I love it.
he's still my hero. He's still my hero. I think if I didn't see Seb early on, I don't know if I would be in parkour. You know what I mean? Because I didn't see anybody that like looked like me. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting you because you were talking about that, but I do think it's good to bring up because a lot of listeners maybe who are listening to this didn't start when we started 0 05. I was like early 2007. And, I started in the New York City community, even though I was a little bit outside of New York City, but there was a very diverse community there. And when I was watching Jump London, the Yamakaze videos, David, it was like there was one white dude, purely white dude in the Yamak, right? Like it was just Laurent, and he was Italian, and then everybody else was Vietnamese or of African descent. And I thought that was so cool. And then slowly I would hear from other people like, no, parkour is like a white guy sport.
yep,
And it was a really interesting thing how that went from being visually like the most diverse sport the internet had probably ever seen in the early 2000s to I think really it was like the Jump London, Jump Britain. All of a sudden the UK scene exploded. And then obviously just the demographics of the UK meant a lot of the people who picked it up were white guys between the age of 14 and 25 or 30. Um, but I did want to just, yeah, sorry to drop you in on that because I know you were talking about that double feature and then I sidetracked you by
no,
finding out about how
dude,
funny Seb is.
the history is like the one of the most important things to me, I think, especially at this time, like understanding where we came from so we know where we're at today, like, you know, because it's going to happen again in 10, 20 years, like where people are going to forget about today and then be only focused on tomorrow. And it's like, no, we should like champion all of this because it's how we got here in the first place, which is why I never stopped doing it. Like I always champion the people that inspired me. I always call back to Seb. Like I'll always call back to Seb. That's my eternal hero. Like my real life, like, you know, comic book character like that I got to, you know, like be influenced by. But yeah, like that's the stuff that got me in, you know, like that's what locked me in. So like, you know, seeing how he moved, you know, but also kind of having like a freedom to it, like an expressive outlet, and then at the same time kind of like comparing that to like how Jackie Chan is like very like, you know, like kind of utilitarian movement, like I have to get here. I'm going somewhere, you know what I mean? Like there's like a visible intention behind like why the movement is how the movement is and stuff like that. And then, yeah, like a bit of swag sprinkled in there. I've always loved that, you know. Like in any if anybody's ever seen me approach a corner, you know like how I hit like the double tack, right? And I do that because of Jackie Chan, you know? Like I do that because like watch Rush
Yeah.
Hour 1, you know what I mean? Like watch how he gets over the wall to get to the Chinese ambassador, you know what I mean? Like that's how he does it. It's a mainstay in Jackie Chan's movement. So like that's the
The
movement
corner hates to see Darryl Stingley come in. I gotta say.
legitimately like despises me should be signs in the corner because you know what I'm about to do. My feet are hitting both walls. Swear to God. Like, but yeah, like that's the stuff that I have always loved. And like when I saw early parkour, you know, like in the early 2000s, like I was seeing all of like the vaults and like, you know, the climbs. Like I was a big fan of the Vigro brothers, huge fan of the Vigro brothers, like early on. Jeremy Sanders, Thomas Dolan, like how they moved to get places, you know, mattered a lot to me. And that was like a lot of my inspiration. And it wasn't even until I saw Tempest that I started to like see like more of the acrobatic aspect of it. And, you know, obviously early years with them, like they were like my most formative in-person people. I met Tempest when I was 14. I worked with Tempest
Mhm.
until I was about 20, or sorry, till I was 23. So, like I was like with those guys for a long time. And that definitely
Was
was that?
was I was gonna say, was I Free on LA
Yeah.
the first Tempest video you
Yep.
saw? Yeah,
Yep.
that one flies under the radar in the sort of like historical video roundups, but I feel like that was really that bridged the like three run urban
Yeah.
gymnastics to what I think became competitive or like style parkour now, where people look at like line building and stuff. I really think that video, as much as people will sometimes crap on Tempest, I think thankfully this has gone down a lot in the last 10 years because Tempest has just consistently like showed up for the community, even if it's not always the way that someone who's like more traditional would want. Nobody could say anything that like they haven't, year in, year out, like turned up for the community. Um, yeah, I Free on LA still somehow like flies under the radar as being a really seminal video in the history of parkour.
Yeah, I was at Cincy Jam actually, and I was just talking to a lot of the younglings out there about that video. I was like, you guys do not know what started what you're doing right now because like they were asking me, they were kind of like talking to me about like the parkour free run differences, and I was like, we're gonna shut that down right now. We're not doing that. Like, it's like
Been there, done that.
yeah, it's like you guys were not there when this started. You don't know. So I'm just telling you it's not the thing you think it is, like just so you know. And unfortunately, like Tempest did have a hand in that, like in perpetuating that. But like, I think that they've also like cooled on that completely and just been like the culture's going, and like that's all they really want. And they just like want their particular offering to like ring through as well. You know what I mean? And that's
Mhm.
I've always understood that like about them. But I was like trying to champion them, like I have like a bit of a
Mhm.
muddy history with Tempest and like, being representative of them and not like getting what I thought was like just treatment. But regardless of that, I've kind of like let that go, you know what I mean? And like Gabe and I have like rekindled and been cool. Like I don't want, regardless of how I feel about any individual or entity in the space, like if you did something impactful, you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
refuse to like not allow it to be like heard, you know what I mean? At least in my vicinity. So like I took the time to like kind of like sit these guys down because they were asking me all these questions about like how to succeed in parkour, how to succeed in like training and pursuing their style. And I was just like, you guys need to watch this video. Like this was the first thing like this, like in
Mhm.
parkour. Like all of us, we had seen people who were doing like a lot of like acro work. And like obviously we had like the mad traditional A to B like parkour, right? Like, and they were kind of coexisting, you know what I mean? And then Tempest came in and
Mhm.
was like, we're gonna do this, but they definitely had a super heavy acro, approach
Yeah.
to the movement. And that was from my visibility, from me seeing it, that was the first time I'd seen that, you know what I mean? Like how they were doing
Yeah.
it. It was an extreme sport how they were doing it. Like I think the way that they were
Yep.
doing the acro work, like there were a few people.
It was very Southern California, like the style of the video. And I think people will, I'm sure you're getting to this. People sleep on the fact you're a style athlete first when you competed. They don't know that about you. But no, I do think it's worth bringing up because I do want to jump into your work as a creator and artist because I think that like Trials and some of your other pieces are even though they have been viewed and I think people appreciate them, I still think that they're underappreciated and undervalued for what they've brought to the community. And I think looking back, people will be like, holy crap, Darryl was making that in, 2021. Like there's so much behind that. But I think Tempest was the first to tie a place and the feeling of a place and the identity and culture of a place like Southern California, which is X Games. It is skate culture, surf culture, extreme sports. It's very American. It's Hollywood. And they tied it to I Free Run LA and they merged those two so well in a way that, yeah, to your point, hadn't been done before. And I see that a lot in your work with the Bay, where I watch your video and I'm like, never been to any of these places, but like I feel like if I rolled up to Brentwood or like Oakland or wherever this, Alameda High School or whatever that high school is, right? I'm like, I know the feeling of all of these spaces and I kind of get an idea for the culture and how it's shaping your movement. But I don't want to jump ahead. I'll let you finish your perspective. I did just want to drop that in there because like I think you as an artist, I mean, what do you think? I should be asking you this question. Do you feel like I Flew in LA did kind of start to establish that way of connecting people with places? And do you feel like that is kind of something that you try and do as a creative in your own work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that like I Free in LA is the reason that I know all of the LA spots that I knew when I went out there. It's like when I talked to my dad, back in the day, Tempest had a website, like, tempestfreerunning.com, and you could like contact them. And I contacted them as a 14-year-old kid and was like, I want to come out. I want to meet you guys. And Victor Lopez is actually who responded to me, and was like, yeah, dude, come out to UCLA like this day and we'll be there. And I'm like, walked with my dad and I was like, Pop, look, this guy, cause I showed him the video. I was like, Dad, like this guy said we could come out. Like he's one of the guys, like he has worked with Sebastian Foucan, obviously, like, 007 Casino Royale had come out. My dad and I went to see that in the theater. So I'm like, that guy that was climbing up the beam, like, yeah, he worked with this dude on this. Yeah. So can we go meet him? This might be huge for me, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like
Yeah.
that's a way to be black and do parkour early on. It's like I have to make it matter. Like I have to make it like mean that I can go somewhere, I could take it somewhere. Because otherwise it's
Hmm.
just like a whatever activity that might not pan out for anything. So it's kind of hard to like get my parents to invest in it. But I told my dad, I was like, this guy said we can come out. He's worked with Madonna. He's worked on like K Swiss ads. Like he knows Sebastian Foucan. Like, you know what I mean? And then this is the video.
He's the basketball scout. He's getting me the D1 scholarship this week.
Exactly.
Like that's how you have to communicate it. Yeah.
Yeah, legitimately lying, but he didn't know that. He didn't know that. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's in movies and everything. Dad, this could be huge for me. But I just wanted to
You
go.
were just projecting into the future.
Yeah,
You knew where Victor was going.
yeah. I mean, I did. Yeah, dude did a lot. I could name like 10 movies that guy was in. But yeah,
It's harder to name a movie that Tempest has not been in than
yeah,
to name a movie that they've been in. Yeah.
almost impossible. But yeah, like that idea of like what they did in LA. I was like, dang, I had made like projects where I was just like I free run like this city in the Bay and all that stuff. And like, those, I don't even know where those are now. It was like an old YouTube channel before I got like my Wave Runner channel. But, um, like I saw them and immediately I started trying to do the same thing. I was like, like, okay, cool. Like I got the Bay Area, that's LA. Like they did the whole gamut out there. Like I want to try to do that out here. And it was also all I had, like I couldn't go
Hmm.
anywhere else aside from if my dad like put me in the truck and took me somewhere, like I wasn't flying out to places and stuff, like not even close yet. But like yeah, I copied that immediately. I mean, I copied like their whole like style immediately and started like I like pivoted. I was so like urban free flow parkour generations esque, you know what I mean? Like very much like a Fukan disciple from afar.
Traditionalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Tempest dropped I Fear in LA and I was like, cool, like I want to do that like here. Um and I tried for like a long time before, like obviously like leaving to pursue opportunities because there weren't opportunities out here. Yeah, we had SFPK out here, but like they weren't providing any form of like opportunity, like for like a career in parkour or like like an adjacent career like using parkour skill. So I went out there, but like when I came back home, it was all about like I gotta make this place a destination in some regard, in some fashion, you know what I mean? Like, cause I think that we have like really unique structures out here that I feel you can see it, when you see people from the Bay Area doing parkour, you don't see them doing a lot of what you see happening like, elsewhere and around the world. I mean, I think like, a common association with California parkour all together is like, it's a real style heavy, like acro heavy, like kind of environment. And that's true. Like we do have a lot of things to get onto and then flip off of, but we
Mm-hmm.
also have like really unique architecture and like, I was always interested in trying to find a way to interact with that architecture and to continue to interact with that same architecture and develop over the course of like multiple years, like I
Mm-hmm.
love looking at space and seeing paths, I call them patterns, but you know what I mean? Like I love seeing like routes and just
Yeah.
building on those routes over the course of years. It's like if I can hit this, like what is it saying to me? Like what am I seeing? And that's like where the comic book stuff comes in because the way that I initially started to figure out like the movement that I wanted to do was from looking at space and thinking like, all right, like how is Dick Grayson Nightwing about to get through here right now? Like, it would
Mm-hmm.
give me a concept or an idea, like I would think I would think, like how does Daredevil do this? How does Black Panther do this? Like what is the move that like matches that character's energy? And then like what's the closest thing in reality that I can create with that? And like over many years, I would develop those kinds of things. And like my intention was to obviously like, try to get what's in my head out of my head and subsequently like develop my own style. But also like I wanted to like sometimes I feel like people, I mean, I get these comments, so I know this is true, but sometimes I feel like people want me to go to like more like different spots or, you know what I mean, like different countries or whatever. And one, those people have no idea how huge the Bay Area is. It's a big place, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get around. I scout all week, every week, you know what I mean? And I come up with nothing most of the time because you can go in any direction for 30, 40 miles and find nothing. You know what I mean? Like, cause you just don't know where to look. But like, yeah, like I wanted to like, I wanted to fulfill my vision. Like every time I pull up, what I get is not what I see. It's just what I can do at the moment. So I got to go train and
Mm-hmm.
get better and come back like to it. And I feel like what I've been able to do and like in a way that you have actually like already referenced is I have been able to create like a familiarity with with like these spaces, you know what I mean? At least as it pertains to like the public viewing it. So when people see like, the Bay Area, and think about the Bay Area spots, it's like, yeah, you're going to think about Embarcadero Plaza, the walls, in San Francisco. Like, you're going to think about like Deer Valley High School in Antioch, like, where I'm from, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to think about like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these schools, in like the deeper East Bay, and stuff like that. Like, I just like wanted to do for the Bay Area what I feel like Tempest did for like UCLA, what the David Bell Gap has become, you know what I mean? Like all of like the Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
spots, like Hollywood High School and stuff like that. And like what the UK did for places like IMAX, you know what I mean? And like what rest in peace Vauxhall, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just trying to make that a reality here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And kind of
Yeah.
attach like a, this is how I move through the space. This is what I think the style is here. It's not just taking what people are doing out in the world and then trying to make it fit here. It's like, nah, I'm going to do something here. You know what I mean? That's like special, like to this particular space, and hopefully inspire locals to like, get in and participate. That was like my idea about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very clear that like your choice of movement, your visual language is informed by going to a place and then adapting your movement to the place as opposed to I want to go do a plyo. I'm going to go find a spot where I can do plyos today, which is I think how a lot of people train is they want to work on a certain skill and then they find a place that adapts to that skill. And I think one of the most interesting things about your videos and they always have a little element of surprise, which I think comes from how you've managed to merge sort of like the utility aspect of comic books and that traditional parkour approach from the early 2000s where there is like a reach escape intention to the movement with the style that you had earlier in LA. And then also, obviously, you've developed this insane power and technicality through your years of practice, which I do want to dig into a little bit as well. But, you're able to take all three of those and do things like finding a really interesting ascent that use features that most people wouldn't notice, and then topping it off with like a little bit of like an A twist reverse vault kind of vault over the top or something that just adds flair and still feels like it fits the aesthetic of the overall line and just complements both visually and I think movement wise, the structure. And I love it. I think it's really beautiful to consume. And interestingly, in some ways, I think it's almost had, I don't know if actually I would say it's had this effect, but what you've done for the Bay Area almost feels like a graffiti artist who makes beautiful pieces of art, and they're so good that they intimidate other people into not ruining them. Because I think that you pick both spots and types of movement that are very hard for people to replicate at the level that you do them at. So you look at somewhere like IMAX, and it's like there's very clear one-off challenges. People can kind of do a little bit of, measuring out and be like, oh, I'm going to do the Kong on this one. I'm going to Kong pre. I'm going to Kong, double Kong. It's really hard to do that at any of the spots that you train at. And I think I love that about your videos, and that's what makes them really interesting. But also, one place where maybe that's not true, and this is where I do want to kind of transition into you as a power athlete, you in the last year or so have uncovered somehow, 20 years of us overlooking a very obvious thing in parkour, which is that when you jump off a wall with two legs, you can go farther than with one leg. So for the listener who's maybe not familiar, you really have pioneered this new tack variation where you're doing a two-step tic tac, but the top step you're punching off of both feet. And I've seen over the years, I remember Pedro Salgado, a couple other people kind of playing with this, but it didn't look like it made sense except in very specific cases until you started posting videos of like ungodly gaps that no human being should be able to tic tac pre and somehow making them happen. And these are like the few measuring stick type challenges that you've dropped where it's not, like that to me is like, holy crap, I want to go to that electrical box and just see what that's like because it's one move that I can do. But where did that come from, dude? Well, what made you start playing around with this? You were already good enough at Tic Tacs as it is. Like, why did you decide you needed to get even better? You're just leaving the rest of us way in the dust now.
I mean, like, all right, so like I'll tell you like the Nexus event, but like, you mentioned that like it was a thing that like other people were kind of doing, I was doing it too. I was doing that like back when Pedro was doing that, you know what I mean? Like it's a thing that like a lot of people mess with, you know what I mean? Like you just kind of it's a fun play move, but like in terms of obviously like we had like an understanding of like the practical way to approach a wall, like get off of the wall and like, like return back to, another obstacle, either to a cat, to a landing, whatever it is. Like we knew like how to do like tack backs, 180s, like cat backs, all that stuff. Like,
Mhm.
but this was like just a way to play with it, and like mess around with it. And like, you know, I played too, just like everybody else did, like with the skill and had fun with it. And it wasn't until I was dealing with a slant wall. So I was working on Bane, and I had this crazy like connection. The whole idea of Bane was just like I'm gonna take like the hardest stuff like in my gym, right? And I'm gonna put it together. Like all of these challenges that are supposed to be like singles, you know what I mean? That like
Mhm.
you work all day for.
The backbreakers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm putting that into a line and it's gonna make sense when I do it too. That's the other thing. Like so I was trying to work this route out. And there's like this big swing to precision to a rail that like aside from myself only Kai Willis had ever done, when he came out to visit. And it was like a battle to get. I was like, well, I told him what I wanted to do after he did it. Like I filmed him doing the Lachey pre. And I told him, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I like pointed the whole route out and stuff. And I was like, yeah, somehow I'm going to get from like the bar is here, right? Jutting out this way. The swing is coming back like toward my face, right? And then to the right,
Mhm.
there's this slant wall and they're like a little offset, like instead of being perfectly in line, they're like that. And I was trying to get to the bar, like to catch the bar and like kind of run on the wall, pull myself to my hips and cast and swing. But
Mhm.
like, you know how slant walls work. The higher up the slant you go, the further away from the obstacle you're aiming at you get. So I was trying to do two steps, catch the bar, and I was just shorting it like crazy. I ended up catching the bar and then like swinging into the wall, and I couldn't like I couldn't pull up to my hips. So I tried three steps, and it just made the problem worse. I just came from higher, but from further away. So then
Mhm.
I remembered that move, like the tack punch. And I was telling, Armando and Mel who were filming me, like, do it. Like they didn't think I was going to get it. They didn't think it was going to happen. And I was like, nah, like, watch me do this. And I'm playing, and then I did it. I actually did the thing I was trying to do. I got to my hips and I was like, oh, hey, let's, all right, cool. I think I figured out how to do this. So I just had to work out the steps and then I made it work and it got me there. And I would say like, aside from like, that was the first time that I used the move to get me somewhere where it was like, this was the best move to do was this one.
Yeah.
It was the first time I experienced that. And like I kept it in my pocket because like I kept practicing it because I was like, this is valuable.
Mhm.
I started doing it like to prees. And then
Mhm.
instead of doing like normal, like running 180 like tack back to pre, I would do that sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like obviously the challenge is still the regular two step, but then I would play with this one. And it was just one day where I could not get dude, what's the school? Columbia? Is that it? In New York?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know the
Yep.
180 there, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah, where you do like running dash or speed step over the kind of thick
yeah,
wall, and then there's the 180 back up to pre. Yeah.
yeah,
I'll see. I'll insert clip for viewer. If
perfect.
you're on Spotify, I'm sorry, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's get off. I'm kidding. No, listen anywhere, please. But no, legit. That one. I was coming from Woodward, and like I was having like some pretty significant like right knee pain, but I still like had like power. You know what I mean? But it just like
Hmm.
sucked. And I was trying to do that one because like Mike Arujo told me that nobody had done that one before. So I was like, all right,
Hmm.
cool. Like I can get this right now. And it's so within my range. I was like, I can totally do this, but I just didn't have like my knee was not cooperating. I tried it and he was like, well, you're the first person that broke it, dude. Like you sent the challenge, you got your feet on it, you almost stuck it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't get it. So when I came back, later that year, I like had already trained the two step. Like I was in Miami with Mel for a while, and I'd already trained the two step at a similar gap, like slightly higher landing, slightly shorter gap. But like I trained it like from inside the gap, like so I'm standing back to the landing and just go and do it because that's how you have to do it unless you
Yeah.
vault in.
Limited run up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. I trained that and I was struggling in Miami to get it consistent. So I remembered the, like the tack punch, the double tap is what I call it.
Hmm.
Like I remembered that and I did it and I was like, I overshot the wall like crazy. So like I remembered that like if I have this skill in my back pocket and I don't make the normal two step, I got this one to rely on.
Yeah.
And I pulled up like Rizzo had already done the two step to pre. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, cool. I mean that's been unlocked, but I want to go
I was there when he did it. It's so frustrating. He just friggin'
walked
did
into
like
it.
walked into it.
Yeah.
Just has the strongest right leg. Like he man does not need to run into any challenge.
No.
Classic Rizzo.
No, it's how God nerfed him, just made him bad at running. So he's like
But so good at everything else. Yeah.
he's like, ah, I can't run. I'll just walk into it. Like,
Yeah.
that's okay. I'll walk into it, like, and then he did. So when I went to do it on that trip, I had like less than an hour, like to both get there and try to knock the challenge out.
Hmm.
And I was like talking to Mel and I was like, hey, if I double tap this, like, is that respectable? You know what I mean? Cause like in my eyes, I'm like, it's kind of a cop out, but like also nobody's done this and like I can do it and then I can probably combo out of it.
Hmm.
And she was like, I think it's sick. You should do it. And I was like, are you sure? Cause like we only have this time. Like, so I have to pick
Hmm.
one. Either I go for the normal two step or I do the double tap. And she's like, do the double tap. So I was like, all right, cool. So I did the double tap and dude, it was the easiest float I've ever done. And I was like, okay, now I have to at least do something out of it. And I did. And that was where I learned that it was a like superior technique for me to
Hmm.
be able to get more distance. I was like, I've done
Hmm.
three steps because that was the other thing. I was trying not to do three step 180 off the wall. I wanted to do two, like, cause
Hmm.
ego, you know what I mean? But like, I was like, I know I got the three. I don't want to do the three. Like, I want to do something else. And then when I did that, I was like, boom, this is a superior technique. And when I landed it, I realized I was like, dang, I actually think this might be superior to three steps, at least for getting
Hmm.
distance, just for getting far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I just kept doing the skill. Anytime I couldn't make a two step, I would pop out the double tap. You know what I mean? Like, because I was like, this is my like ace in the hole, like this is the
Yeah.
kryptonite to any gap. You know what I mean? That thinks that it's Superman.
So, yeah, so for the eager listener who's trying to, I love the name Double Tap too. I'm definitely going to start using that. But for me and the eager listener who wants to figure this technique out, I have managed to do some of my bigger 180s as double taps also, but I definitely have not put enough time in yet to find out to optimize the output on it to the same extent, which I'm like, I put whatever 3 months of work into the double tap and 19 years of work into two steps. Makes sense.
Right.
Takes a little bit longer, but if you had to give, let's say, like two or three quick tips for somebody who's listening that wants to work on the double tap, do you have any really helpful takeaways that you learned during this whole process?
Something that I have come to understand is the steps in are different than they are for like a normal two step 180. So like, normal two step,
Interesting.
yeah, normal two step, you just
Hmm.
run into it, right? But like for a really good like double tap step, obviously it's the same type of approach. It's you can run in, you can sprint in. You'll probably hit the wall harder with your foot than you do on a normal two step, so just be mindful of that. But like it's a little more of like what the gallop step of a Kong feels like. You know what I mean? So you got to think about like your last takeoff foot for a Kong, like if you go left foot in front on your Kong, it's like left, right, left. So it's going to be
Hmm.
left, right, and then left on the wall. You know what I mean? Like that'll help you.
Interesting.
That'll help you pop up. Anybody who's ever done like step up palms, like step up palm flips,
Hmm.
or step up wall spins, it's the same kind of step. Like it's the same kind of like, gather step into the wall. So that's like number one for how to take the momentum coming forward and send it up. Number two is use your hands, either two hands or one hand. Obviously, if you're using one hand, you're gonna use the one away from the turn. So I turn left, so I use my right
Hmm.
hand on the wall. Which foot you use, honestly, I'll say whatever is comfortable for you. I don't think that it certainly matters. But yeah, like your main goal should be to try to get as much height on the wall as you can, while still being able to like you have to kick the wall. You can't
Hmm.
press off of the wall. Like you literally have to try to stomp yourself off the wall if you want to get like the maximum power out of it. Like
Hmm.
that only stops working when the kick off of the wall sends you down and can't send you up anymore. So just be mindful of like, your feet to like hip angle. You know, your feet have to
Yeah,
be
don't turn it into a trap door.
no, no. It's gonna like if especially if you're going for like a gap that's hard for you, man, like I've had a couple where I've hit like that just on accident and like you just shoot yourself. I don't think I've ever come at a wall faster like than that. And like it's literally your head first kind of at the wall and you have to like catch your feet up, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so that's just something to be mindful of. Like make sure that you want to still be able to kind of get an upward jump off of the wall. Um
Do you feel like your hips are closer to the wall on a double tap than they are for the two step? Because I think one thing that I struggle with is I feel like I want to hit in my brain, I want to hit the double tap with my legs less extended
yeah.
so that I can jump more off the wall. And with a two step, it's like because I think you have a little bit less friction since you only have that 1 foot. You're like a little bit more already kind of going off of the wall to capitalize on the momentum. So I'm just curious, do you feel like that's accurate that like on a double tap, you feel like you're hugging the wall a little closer than on a
Yeah.
two step, or you feel like they're pretty similar?
Yeah, I would say that you're a little bit closer. Like I do the same thing. Like my if you see my two legs on the wall versus like my one leg on the wall for a normal two step, like I'm definitely more bent with the two legs. So I'm certainly closer to the wall, which is one of the reasons why I like the one hand as opposed to the two hands. I feel like the two hands will keep you kind of further away from the wall, but the one hand, like it gives you a little bit more like room, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of think about it like I'm even though the walls most of the time are just, you know, infinity walls, like so I can't grab the top of anything. I think about trying to grab the top of the wall and pull it down to my feet. You know what I mean? Like and that's going to get harder the further away from the wall you are, right? So, yeah, like if you have good ankles, like you don't even have to turn too much. Like it doesn't have to be a super
Mhm.
sideways move. It can be a little bit more like diagonal foot placement or even straight foot placement. Like if you watch Orlando do like rebounds off of walls, like I think most of the time his feet are mostly vertical and he's got like the most incredible ankles I think I've seen aside from Brandon Douglas maybe. Um
Some
and
supple ankles. Yeah.
yeah, some super supple ankles. But like I think that that helps if you're too sideways, like you will get away from the wall. So I would try to think about it more like like you're like double kicking the wall and like turning out of the double kick. That'll probably help you stay a little closer to the wall. But yeah, definitely
Mhm.
being you don't want to be so close that you can't like kick off of it, but you don't want to be so far away that by the time your legs extend, they just touch to the wall and you have no launch, right? But yeah, it's more tight to the wall than a normal two step is.
Pro tips. That's actually, we might have lost like half of the listeners who are not just nerdy parkour people like us, but the other half are going after it right now. They're like taking notes, or at least they should be, because I'm certainly in my brain like, okay, next time I go to my classic tax spot, I got something to work on.
Facts.
That's really helpful. Well, I did want to kind of ask you one more question before we wrap. And I've referenced this already, I think your creative contributions have been very significant, especially in the US scene. I think you have spoken, even on here and definitely in the past, about how much you feel like your identity as a black man, or the part of your identity that is a black man, is so pivotal to the way that you show up in parkour and the stories that you have to tell for the parkour community. So I wanted to ask, what do you feel like you tried to contribute to parkour with the media that you create? And what do you feel like you would like to see more of in terms of the media that parkour currently creates or consumes?
You know, like I have always tried to like make work that like has a particular meaning behind it, you know? So like most of my projects have been kind of like thematic. And especially like since 2016 when I like started like my like project series like which 16 bars and the Trials of the Dark Knight, Trials Morales, Bane, all of those are like a part of that series. Everything had a theme that I felt like was meaningful. So, like 16 bars was very much like a love letter to like hip hop and comic book, like the comic book hip hop marriage, you know what I mean, that exists.
Mhm.
And stuff like that. I was trying to like interweave my influences and also be a representative of like my personal culture, you know what I mean? There's a lot of hip hop usage in parkour, but there's not a lot of like recognition of black culture, which is like that's what the music is, like regardless of who's participating in it, making the music or producing the music or anything like that, like hip hop is black music. That's where it came from. It came from where you're from, you know what I mean? Like in the boroughs of New
Mhm.
York. And that's like an extension of my identity in general because it was the music that I grew up with. It's the music that people that were from my culture, from where I'm from, were making. So I was always trying to interweave that into the story and into the artistic expression of it all. You know what I mean? Like every track is hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
And they're all I don't know if they're all local, but from what I remember, at least without having to go through the tracks, like it feels like many of them are local. I feel like you've used some Killer Mike, some like Atlanta stuff, but
oh
you
yeah,
use a lot of Bay Area, if not exclusively. And I think that adds a lot of meaning for the listener that
yeah.
makes it very clear. Like it feels very intentional the way that you use music.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm in all of the stuff that I feel like is like relative and representative of me. So like right now I'm wearing a Griselda hoodie, right? Like, and this
There
Buffalo,
you go.
Buffalo, New York, these guys, they're the homies.
Hmm.
Like, and it's actually given me relationships with them, which I think has also been an intention of like my artistic like journey with like the movement or the projects that I've made with parkour is like, yeah, I don't want to just, use these artists' songs and like not be like recognized by them, you know what I mean? Like making them
Hmm.
kind of recognize parkour. So like that's also been a large part of like my journey with my media and stuff, and like the art I've made is to try to like first of all like take some serious space in parkour for like people of color, black people, you know what I mean? Like be not just a fan of the culture, but like actually I'm a product of the culture. Like I was born in this stuff, the things that they talk about, that's the stuff that I experienced like growing up, you know what I mean? Like I understand that. So I wanted to be an actual like representative of that in the space of parkour to kind of like connect the worlds more so. And like if you look at where I am like today, I've done so much of that. Dude, I just got a DM yesterday from Jay Electronica. I don't know if you know who Jay Electronica is. But
Yeah,
yeah, so yeah, he DM'd me yesterday. You know what I mean? Like Killer Mike.
that's sick.
Killer Mike also commented and DM'd me a couple months ago. Trey the Truth. You know what I mean? Like I got a lot of people in like the hip hop scene who are now like recognizing me, but they're not just recognizing me, they're recognizing like parkour, you know.
You've also had some hilarious reviews from like Instagram and TikTok pages that I think are like primarily oriented toward like black culture. But there's one I can't even think of off the top of my head, but it was just reviewing you basically as a comic book character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know Daryl, and I know how excited he is that this person sees a clip and is immediately like, no, that's Spider-Man. That's Static Shock. That's
Oh yeah,
all these comic
I know who you're talking
characters.
about. Marquise sent me Marquise's dad, Marquise Johnson. His dad sent it to him, and then he sent it to me and was like, "Do you know about this?" And I was like, "Dude, what?" Like, that's how I saw it, right? Like,
Shout out Mr. Johnson.
shout out, Mr. Johnson. That Mr. Johnson. But
Shout out Mr. Johnson.
dude, yeah, like it's been massive, I think, for me, and I think that like I've had an intention. Like, do you remember back in 2006 or you probably saw it when Ryan Ford
Mhm.
went on the E60, like ESPN E60 thing. Yeah, this there was a
Yeah, training with the Yamakasi.
yep
Yeah.
black black reporter. She said, or a black journalist. She said like this is something that white people do. This is not something that black people do. And that was like my first whole year in parkour. Like I was 1 year into parkour when I saw that, and I was like, that's not true. Like, and
Mhm.
I understand it because like I heard it growing up. Like, this is you're doing like something that like white people do, and I'm just like, no, you guys don't actually even understand. Like, this came from us. Like, this came from like our culture. You know what I mean? Like, African tribes, like that's us, you know what I mean? Like that
Mhm.
came from us, has been influenced by us a lot. The music, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
style, how people dress and stuff. So I'm like, I was so anti that message, like that I almost like made it a point to be like, I'm going to become something that wholly disproves that while still being like representative of the culture that I come from. And like I feel like today, like as a pivotal character, like in the space, at least from like the public perspective, like I've helped change that, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the fact that I have like rappers and like filmmakers and, you know what I mean, actors and stuff, like reaching out, you know what I mean, following, like commenting, participating in the art and craft that I'm putting out. I feel like I've already broken that down, you know what I mean? And like my whole goal with it in that regard is to make it so that the next me doesn't need, or well, the next person that looks like me that sees parkour, like doesn't need to like scour the internet for who looks like me that does this, you know what I mean? Like, or like,
Mhm.
I want people to have what I had, like, which I was lucky to have Sebastian Foucan and Blue, you know what I mean? Like to point to, when I was saying to people like, no, it's not just something that white people do. Like these are two of the biggest people in the sport, like looking at all of like the Yamaks, like Malik, you know what I mean? And pointing to him and being
Yeah.
like, no, there's people, like our people have been in this since the like inception of it, like, so my goal is to be another figure like that. I had that, and I just want to be easier to find, you know what I mean? Like more visible so that it's not even a question. Like, nah, Wavezilla does this, so I could do this. You know what I mean? Like that's always been meaningful to me, and I feel like that's not my only job, but that is like one of the jobs that I like have to do, and um, I think that. Yeah, I mean, where I'm at now with it and what I feel like I'm trying to accomplish now, is validating parkour like as an athletic endeavor to the masses, like who are looking at things like American football, you know what I mean, like track and field,
Mhm.
like and stuff like that, and seeing like those are where the apex athletes are. And it's like, no, like not to say, not to diss any of those guys at
Yes,
all.
but also,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's a but and.
Yeah, so I feel like, especially with the way that I do parkour, I can do that, and I think I've already like been doing that, like I have a lot of aspects of like speed, power, and agility. That's like a lot of my bag. And then obviously like there's the hyper technical stuff that we know, you know what I mean? So I'm just
Mhm.
like I'm adding like the speed, the power, the agility, you know what I mean? The athleticism, the like very clear
Mhm.
athleticism to it to like make these people respect us. And look what it's been doing. I've been getting confused with NFL players like left and right, you know what I mean? Like because of that. And listen to what they're saying, you know what I mean? They're calling these guys bigger beasts than they thought that they were, and it's not even them. Like it's a
Mhm.
parkour guy. It's one of your guys, dude, Saquon Barkley called me fast to my face, you know?
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. When was that? What was this?
Uh,
Was it because you were wearing your speed goggles? Because those give you like plus 20
bro,
on all your shorts and videos that you've been sharing. All those little like side Kong lines at Embarcadero with the speed goggles. That's a look, I gotta say.
dog.
Pioneer.
Dog, I'm out here trying. I like when I cut my hair, I was like the first thing I was like, this company reached out to me And I was like, Mondo, tell him send me 2 pairs because I'm trying to go fast, dog. Like, but yeah, I worked with C4 Energy and Saquon for the season opener
Okay,
in
yeah.
Philadelphia. And I had to like steal a shirt from him. And like I asked them on the set, I was like, you really want me to like run and take this thing from him? Like, and they're like, yeah, no, we want it to look like for real, for real. So I like walked up to Saquon and I was like, dude, hold the shirt out here so that I don't clip you when I come through because I'm coming in. And like I was like, you guys sure you want me to go like full gas? They're like, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So I sprinted, I ripped the shirt from him, you know what I mean? And then like I like had to like really like stop, like slow myself down because I was
Yeah.
going. And I walked back to hand him back the shirt so we could do another take, and he goes, "Damn, bro, you're hella fast." And I was like, "Thanks," And then like after we
That's
wrapped,
wild.
dude,
Yeah.
after we wrapped all of the guys that were there who were like, these are guys, these are athlete dudes, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
They were like, "Bro, Saquon called you fast," and like he works with the fastest people all the time, so like that's gotta feel great. I was like, it feels great. I can't wait to tell the parkour world like what we got just now, you know?
Unfortunately, all the people who have large social media followings are not American
I
athletes,
know.
and they have no idea who Saquon Barkley is.
I know.
They're like, if he's not kicking a ball on a football pitch, we don't care. But Saquon Barkley is arguably the best player in the NFL in the last, what, 3, 4 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. So
I'd say so.
if you're looking for peak athletes, I think the NFL undoubtedly is the place to go right now. Also, just from a strength, endurance, athleticism, agility perspective, like there's no other sport that tests people. So getting that kind of reference from someone like Saquon Barkley is insane.
Yeah,
That's really cool, dude.
that's what I've been doing it for like recently, is to do that. I feel like that's the validity that I can help give to parkour, cause like I'll see any athlete in the world, like in any place, as long as they see me in mine too. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing that. That's on parkour.
Yeah,
That's for parkour. I train like that for that reason. You know what I mean? Like, cause I feel like it's something that we're missing that I feel like I can help a lot with, you know what I mean? Bringing that to the forefront, like if I can keep being around these
you're
people,
doing it, man.
if I can keep being around these
Yeah,
people, man, I feel
you're
like I'm
doing it.
doing it for the culture.
Yeah. Well, it from the outside, it looks like it, and I think it's great to get that context for the content that you're creating, and it's great to see just where you're going. So one last question that I've been asking everybody is if you had to recommend one piece of media to the listeners, it could be a book, a video, podcast, YouTube video, anything, what would you recommend?
You talking about parkour specific, yeah?
It does not need to be parkour specific. It could be any piece of media that you're drawing inspiration from right now or that you think other people would enjoy.
Hmm. Hmm. God, there's so many, man. So there's so many
And why is it the Scott Snyder run of Batman?
of that. Yeah, legitimately, it's that actually. Actually, what I will say is, like Alex Ross, World's Greatest Superheroes. Like that whole like omnibus of like stories
Mm.
is one of like my favorite things media wise, or like, just pop culture wise, that I feel like helped shape me a lot. And I don't know, I feel like everybody could get a lot out of that. Or you could like, you could watch JJK, I guess. You could do that too. That's sick. You can't go wrong with that, like, you know,
Greatest heroes are Jujutsu Kaisen. There you
yeah,
go.
I'd say that. Listen to Wu Tang. I know that's more than one thing, but I can't help myself. Um, okay, hold
It's
on.
great.
Real one, actual one right here. Dude, I think everybody in the world can get a lot out of La Russell. He is a Bay Area rapper out of Vallejo, California, also where E40 is from. Um, and man, that guy like has helped me a lot just with he does this thing called Free Game Fridays where he just like gives like pretty much free advice like to to everybody on social media that follows him. But like beyond that, dude, he's just dropping like such good, I think, positive knowledge about like how to not only like, develop yourself in your own authentic way, but also like how to like invest in a community around you and see that community like reinvest in you, which has been like a lot of the work that we've been doing here in the Bay Area, like with Squadron, has been specifically that. Like, I'm hitting spots trying to do things that like have never been done, or advancing on things that I've done before to like continue to draw eyes from like the local public here, while at the same time like offering them so many access points to like start parkour with us, and like every person's start of parkour with us is free. So, your first class is free. We run free open sessions. We run like free monthly events that we call Sunday service. And a lot of that came from what LaRussell like does. I mean, his whole game is like, pay what you can, like pay what it's worth to you. He has people pulling up that only have $1, and he has people pulling up that have $1,000 that are just dropping it on him because he believes in like the community so much, and he believes in like what he's doing so much, that like he's just taking that risk of just pretty much giving it away and putting it all out there and not holding it, you know what I mean? So that the people can get it, and be inspired by it. So I think like LaRussell is, if I could, all those other things I said are cool, but like if you really want a life changing experience, just like listen to him talk, listen to his music, watch how he creates and shares. And I think like a lot of people, especially like in our space, could get a lot of value out of that. That's a I, once in a generation type of figure. I feel like, you know.
It's a great recommendation, man. Well, thanks for taking the time. It has been awesome to have you on, Darryl. And for folks that are curious, maybe that hear this in the Bay Area, that want to find you or find those Sunday sessions, what is the best way to get info about Squadron?
You can follow me at I am Wavezilla on Instagram. You can follow Squadron at SQVADRON on Instagram. You can also go to squadron.com, spelled the same way. And you can tap in with our program director, my boy Mondo, at King Killa Mondo on Instagram. And yeah, we'll get you guys like all set up, and the schedule and all that stuff of where we're going to be and what we're doing. It's out there. It's for everybody. We want
Don't be
everybody to.
intimidated.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't be intimidated by the names King Kilimanjaro or Wavezilla. No, they're you guys are doing great work, and it's awesome to see you giving back to the community. Well, man, I'll let you get back to it. I know you got some training to do today, so have an awesome sesh, and thanks for your time, bud.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the opportunity.
I warned you that one was gonna get nerdy, and it definitely did, from the comic book stuff all the way to that 10-minute debrief on double tap technique, which I hope you guys found helpful. That to me was really helpful, and I feel like I have some really solid technical takeaways there. But for me, I think the most insightful piece of this, and just chatting with Darryl in general, is hearing how he embraces every aspect of himself and ties it into his identity inside of parkour, whether that's in his training. He talked a little bit about how Jackie Chan and the sort of reach escape mentality, and starting in 2006, how that still is present in the way that he moves today, to maybe more broad aspects of culture, like his love of hip hop and how he ties that in, or his love of comic books and how he ties that into the way that he edits and the way that he shares his content and talks about himself. And I think that knowing yourself, knowing your roots, figuring out how to embrace all of that in an authentic way is really beautiful. And I think that's something that we can all strive to do more of. So if you have one takeaway, other than that, you should try and work on double tap techniques, which was my big takeaway. I think it's to look at the way that Darryl has been able to embrace every aspect of who he is openly and share that with the world in a really beautiful, authentic way. I hope, as always, that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, doing the whole like, comment, subscribe shenanigans does actually help. Sharing it with some friends that you might think find it interesting would be great too. And if not, that's totally fine. Either way, I will catch you next week on the Takeoff. Thanks so much for joining me.